Deciding to become a DM is terrifying. You're standing on the precipice of the unknown, in the fog, with no clear way in or out, no guarantee you'll be alright. I know how you're feeling. I see you. It's a terrifying feeling. Whether it's your first time running a game or your first time running in-person games or constructing a new group after your last one fell apart. Or even just trying to finally start that new RPG you've dreamed of. I want to talk about how to create new groups, get players, and altogether beat the so-called DM shortage, because I don't think it's an actual real problem. At least as long as you're willing to charge into the unknown, heedless of danger, with a love for gaming and a stalwart bravery in your heart. You may trip and fall, but as long as you keep going, you will persevere. Welcome to Mystic Arts, where I pretend to run a D&D channel in the hopes that nobody catches on to the life advice that I tend to sneak in here. My name is Daði, I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for over a decade. Folks have all kinds of excuses for why they haven't started running the game yet. They aren't ready, they don't know the rules, they don't have a campaign ready, they don't have a world, they have to make a world, they don't have a place to play, and they don't have players. Gah, it's impossible, woe be me. Well, reading the basic rules takes about 90 minutes, and you can run a pre-written adventure, maybe on a train in a pre-written setting, or no setting at all. You can play in your room, in a library, in a cafe, on a park bench, over the internet. You can play with your dad, your mom, your little sibling or nibbling, a coworker, or even a stranger. These are all solvable problems, but you still haven't started playing. Maybe you're watching my videos, maybe you've been watching them for a long time, but you still haven't started playing. This might surprise some of you folks watching, but I get comments all the time from people who've been fans for ages, and they still haven't started. Why not? I'm here to tell you that it has nothing to do with any excuse I've said so far. In fact, if I've said your typical excuse during this intro, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. Probably. I'm assuming. And you should run a game in the next 7 days, come hell or high water. And if you've already run games of your RPG of choice, but you're not running weekly, or your group flaked on you, or now you're in a group crisis, I want to talk to you. I said last week that I have run 149 sessions in 2 years. We just reached 150. And we got some comments on what a scheduling feat that must have been. It's an average of 1.5 sessions a week. And it wasn't even that hard. I think it has less to do with scheduling beyond what I talked about in this video here, and more to do with group composition. But let's take another example of this line of thinking, because I made a video last month talking about my experiences playing D&D with 2 DMs, and it started a conversation in the comments, which is always a pleasure to read, but I saw a part of that conversation go in what I think is an incredibly strange direction. It was framed as greedy for groups to have 2 DMs. How dare those groups have 2 DMs? I can't even find 1 DM. Well, on one hand, that is a funny quip, but it also left me kind of shocked and speechless. Like, what an absurd argument. Like, you're owed a government-issued DM. Maybe you disagree, but I think it's essentially a logical fallacy based on a flawed premise, that there is somehow a limited number of DMs out there. Like it's a finite resource, but DMs are a renewable resource. You see, many groups that are lucky enough to have 2 DMs are often groups that would have otherwise had no DMs, but because 2 people sharing the burden feels more achievable, they treat it as an opportunity. I think that's important, thinking about the opportunity of it all. For the same reasons, lots of people start DMing when they realize that they can play systems that are inherently more keyed into whatever it is they like, or they find more casual play systems that seem less daunting. All of those things make DMs, create them. They don't remove them. We shouldn't be preparing for DM austerity because there is no DM shortage. It's just a shortage of bravery. DMs aren't a finite resource. They're renewable. You can make new DMs. In fact, I think I do that once a week. Go to the video I uploaded on Monday and check the pinned comment. People tell me all the time that I helped them get started. I mean, I've been making Dungeon Master since long before me and my girlfriend AB started this YouTube channel. I've been doing that as long as I've been in the hobby almost. I remember falling out of love with Pathfinder after running it for about a year or 2, and a friend of mine showed me a Matt Colville video, specifically running the game number 14, Alignments. Naturally, I went back and watched the entire series up until that point, and my spark was restored. I came back running the game a week later, started a new campaign, designed my own subsystems, created my own worlds, inviting new players, teaching new people the game. I mean, the man said,
"Why should I care if your friends have fun? Because I want you to be a river to your people."
And I took that literally, and I spent the next several years introducing as many people to the game as I could. Anyone I introduced to the game is my D&D kid. I want to watch them flourish, grow, and develop a dice addiction. And when they do go on to introduce other people to the game, I think of those other people as my D&D grandkids. And with how fractured the RPG hobby space tends to be, I can't know for certain if I'm a D&D great-grandfather or a great-great-grandfather, but I like to think that I am. I've introduced enough people to the game in person that I think it's sort of inevitable. I truly feel that is the work that I'm proudest of. I'm proudest of all the dungeon masters I've made along the way. And now I'm fortunate enough to hear from people who tell me I got them out of their rut, or finally pushed them to start. Those are my true achievements. Although there are other things that challenge it. But even still, the DMs I made along the way, those are my D&D grandkids. So that's peak. Oh, and there was also this one date that happened off of the back of our Valentine's video about duet D&D. That might actually be number one, but I'm not sure. Give me some time to think about it. So thanks Matt and thanks MCDM. They launched a crowdfunding campaign last week and have already funded their new game Crows and then some, which is this week's sponsor. Crows is a dungeon crawling survival horror RPG. In Crows, player characters are adventurers in a desolate world who dive into horror-infested ruins to find gold, gems, and other valuable treasures to make your home village bigger and better. Kind of like the Darkest Dungeon TTRPG. It is better dungeon crawling for folks used to modern D20 fantasy games. Inventory management through cards is quick and fun, exploration is tense and thrilling, and combat is fast and deadly. Think outside your character sheet to come home rich instead of in a box. Crows isn't just about the dungeon, it's got unique rules for overland travel and building and upgrading your hometown, which remains even if your PC dies. Head to the link in the description to pre-order the game or download a free playtest and try out the system tonight. Let's circle back to this idea of DMs being a non-renewable resource. I think this is the same logical fallacy that leads people to think that they cannot play RPGs in person, that they must play online, or that they cannot play D&D. It is somehow impossible for them to start their own group, make their own world, or make their own adventure. It can be so daunting, but it's like eating an elephant. You gotta do it one bite at a time. I've gotten very familiar with this logical fallacy in all kinds of forms and shapes now because I've seen that fallacy at work in other forms before. I get lots of comments, Blue Sky tweets, Discords, Patreon pings, or whatever kind of internet ping there is, saying all kinds of things to this question. That somehow there's a shortage, that we can't find a group, that I'm not ready, that I can't possibly DM, it's so complicated. Or that I can DM but only online. And if that's how you felt, I need to tell you, all those folks struggling to find a DM, that they need to become the DM they're looking for. Make the group they're looking for. Create the players that they don't have. I'm going to repeat that because that is the message of the video. If you can't find a DM, you need to go become the DM you're looking for. You need to solve the problem. You need to be brave. Charge into the unknown. Whichever challenge it is you're facing, you need to go after it. Take on the burden. It's creative, artistic, and a lot of fun. You get to be the J.R.R. Tolkien to your friends. You get to make a world. You get to have the privilege to make an adventure, a story. And if you're worried about not knowing the rules, let me tell you, it is not a problem. If you don't know the rules, one of two things is going to happen. One, if you're running for a table of new players, they won't know any better, and you will all not know the rules, and you'll all just move on with a ruling someone, probably you the dungeon master, makes on the spot, and you'll look up the rules later. Or, if you're running for a table of experienced players, they will know the rules, and they'll happily tell you the rules, yielding to your DM ruling in the case of any contradiction. So you're fine. If you're anxious about starting because you have to write an adventure, and you don't know where to begin, you can use a pre-written adventure. This is one I made and I'm selling, but you don't even have to buy this. I also wrote this one, All Hail Gek. It's free, and it teaches you how to run the game while you read it. There are these little text boxes that explain how the rules work. And again, you can use a pre-written setting like the one I've made, but I'm going to recommend your first adventure is set in a sort of vague fantasy land that isn't defined until your players start exploring it. You can make it up as you go along. You don't need to go buy somebody's setting and read about it. You don't need to go understand D&D's setting. You can just have there be no setting. Literally figure it out as you go. All right? What about a place to play and a group to play with? At this point, lots of folks recommend playing online. There are lots of spaces on the internet where people are looking for groups. If you look for the abbreviation LFG in D&D communities, it doesn't mean let's fucking go, it means looking for group. I know the official D&D Discord has one of those spaces. So does the MCDM Discord, and so does my Discord server. My server even organized at least 2 other separate servers for running games. One Westmarches server and one for running revolver campaigns, i.e. 6-session campaigns. People all over the internet are organizing play with one another. Online play has been an incredible boon for this entire hobby, bringing together gamers from far-flung anti-gaming communities that cannot hope for better games or in-person games, and it's made the tedium of math, tracking meta-currencies or grids vanish thanks to computer software, and it's made our hobby more interconnected and stronger. I include segments like that one in my videos because it's important to tell people that online play exists. And I think playing online is better than not playing at all. But online RPGs isn't the hobby I fell in love with. For me, role-playing games are about eye contact at the table, with your friends sharing a space, sharing laughs, snacks, and drinks. It's a social event. I spend enough time in front of my screen, working, playing video games, watching movies, watching YouTube, and reading the news. RPGs for me are an analog hobby, and it's the best thing in the world. A retreat from the online into the comfortable room with my friends. And every time I say that in a video, people call me privileged, an allegation I will not beat in this decked out gaming room. But if you want to start playing offline, here's what I recommend. You can try to find a whole group and join them, but I think it's easier to start your own group, build your own community. That's what I did, and it's lasted me my entire adult life. You might think I don't know any D&D players, but you wouldn't believe how many of my players, past and present, weren't D&D nerds to begin with. These groups barely had any, some had none. They were collections of medium nerdy people that I looked at and I thought, I can make you even more nerdy. They were WoW players, RuneScape players, Viking reenactors. Fairly nerdy, but not necessarily D&D nerdy. Then there were movie buffs, stage actors, people in bands, people who played video games. They are a little nerd curious, but they're barely nerds. I've also invited HR workers, project managers, receptionists, bartenders, and athletes, and they were all willing to give it a go. When I invite these random people, some say no, you do get rejection. That's not a big deal, that's a part of putting yourself out there. You'll learn to live with that. Some played for a night and then never returned. They didn't like me, they didn't like my game, they didn't like my group, I don't know. They didn't tell me. But I moved on, and that's fine too. Some enjoyed the game but didn't put it high on their list of priorities, and I eventually phased them out of the group. I refuse to run for people who don't make themselves available, who don't put the game near the top of their priority list. Now this means I've played with probably 100 players, and my active gaming group is about 12 people in various combinations, with one 6-person group playing once a week. So this was hard. It took a lot of time, it took ages. But now that I'm here, I get to play D&D whenever I want. Not just once a week, whenever I want, because my group wants the same thing I do. And over time, almost everyone in this group started their own adventure, their own campaigns, or their own groups. None of them would have been DMs without this group. But by making time to overcome this responsibility, by forgetting about the DM shortage, we created a bunch of new DMs. So how do you put together a group? You find slightly nerdy people, and you see if you can't make them more nerdy by introducing them to D&D. That's how you do it. And by the way, you don't need to find 6 people. You don't even need to find 4 people. You can run D&D for 2 or 3 players. Hell, I made a guide on how to run for 1 person, literally 2 people at the table, 1 DM, 1 player. It works and it's fun. So if you've never played before, I want to challenge you to try DMing and invite a small handful of slightly nerdy people to come try it. And if you're an online player, I want to challenge you to run an in-person session in the next 7 days. Find a small handful of people and invite them. If you need a place to play, I want to say that public spaces may be rare, but they exist. Some people play in bars, cafes, at libraries, at their friendly local game store, and if you don't know any players, you do. You're being ridiculous. You know humans. You have some friends or coworkers or family, a local cafe, a library, a pub, or something. There are humans out there. I know they're scary, but the meaning of life is other people. So one last thought. Why haven't you solved all those solvable problems? I'm gonna be, if you'll allow me, a tiny little bit mean. but I promise it's because I want to help. Because I know what it's like. You haven't solved the solvable problems because you don't want to solve them. Or at least you don't want it enough to actually do it. Your problem isn't the lack of a group or prep or anything like that. Your problem is that you haven't decided to do it. You know, there's a million things you've already done in your life that were hard, and they were way harder than asking someone to come play a game. But in the end, you went and did them. All that is required is that you decided to do it. Because once you decide to do something, you do it. Granted, RPGs are a needy hobby. It is much harder to play a session of an RPG than it is to play Candy Crush or brush your teeth or take a shower. But let me tell you, as someone with chronic depression, there are days where personal hygiene seems like the hardest thing in the world. Like it's literally impossible. But I've run D&D on days like that. Because at some point, I decided I'd play D&D every week. And I haven't missed one since. Because I decided I wouldn't. And once I had done that, personal hygiene was easier. Dressing up was easier. I finally started that YouTube channel I'd been thinking about for years. It took ages. It was really hard. But slowly but surely, I climbed out of my hole. I am not cured, but I've got a support system because I decided to make it. So I want you to ask yourself, really ask yourself, are your problems impossible to overcome? Or are you maybe subconsciously choosing to give up before you try? Can you do me a huge favor and finally start your game because I need more D&D grandkids? Thanks. And that's where we're going to pick it up next time. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend, and if you want to support us directly, come pick up the Broadsheet, our 5e digital magazine that's available now in print. Each issue contains 3 chapters, an adventure, a setting, and new rules like monsters, magic items, and in the future, subclasses, and more. Issue 1 is available now in print, and issue 2 is available for pre-order. You can find both in our store. There is a link in the description. If you're feeling especially generous, go run a game for me. All right? Until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.